bit about what this piece of rock is versus all the other type of coal you might see, because we here in northeastern Pennsylvania, the coal here sits in 3 major beds, okay? One here in the northern field, it runs from Forest City all the way down below Wilkes-Barre. Okay, we're near Scranton here, which is kind of right in the middle of that northern field. Okay? Then there's a middle field and the southern fields. In those 3 fields lay 75% of all the anthracite coal in the entire world. Okay, it's a very unique type of coal. It's very hard, okay, and it's almost pure carbon. So it produces a lot of energy, a lot of heat, and also for the railroads, it was great because it didn't produce much soot. And also if you burn it in your homes, it didn't produce a lot of soot. Anthracite coal, which I say about 75% of all the deposits in all the world are here in northeastern Pennsylvania. And yes, sir.
Last night we had someone from Steamtown talking.
Yes.
And they had a locomotive there that they said would not burn anthracite, but they had to use bituminous coal.
Yeah, there's because we're going to talk a little bit about that, how you have to burn it in a special way. Because to get this on fire, you have to heat it. You have to give it a lot of oxygen, you know, very, very hot. Anybody you train folks to ever hear is Phebe snow? Okay, well,
yes.
Phebe Snow, the Lackawanna Railroad that ran through there, their big marketing campaign was a woman called Phebe Snow. And she could wear a white, they advertised, she could wear a white dress on all their trains because there wasn't any soot and ash coming out of the Lackawanna locomotives. I was not quite sure whether she was 100% correct, but it certainly was. I've been on steam trains, you have too, and there is a lot of soot and dust, and it is certainly a marketing advantage to have less. Employed in the textile industry here in northeastern Pennsylvania than in the mining industry. So northeastern Pennsylvania really became a major manufacturer of silk, lace, and other textile goods. So it was a significant industry here in northeastern Pennsylvania, and all of the machinery around here is all associated with making those fabrics, making the silk gowns. I'm not an expert on it.
All right, just a couple of things before we head on down. We're going about 300 feet underground, so it's going to be a 5 to 10 minute ride down. Once we get down there, we do get out and walk around. It's about a half-mile walk, so a quarter-mile in, quarter-mile out. We will be down there for about an hour. So get ready to get some good exercise.
There's one space right there's one space right here.
Okay, you want to right there.
Well, sitting sideways.
So one building.
So we're heading down into the mine. Well, it's getting dark now.
Yeah.
Oh, it looks like the end of the line. Yep. Well, we made it. Heading into the mine. Yeah, it looks like some more miners up ahead.
Hi everyone, welcome to Lackawanna Coal Mine Tours. My name is Deanna and I'm going to be your guide for today. So what you guys did was come down this 190 slope here into the Clark bed. We are currently at the bottom or foot of the Clark bed. This is one of 7 mineable veins of coal down here. That means there's exactly 3 above us and 3 below. Each is separated by a layer of stone. So a lot of times when people first come into these mines, they tend to think that this is what's holding up the roof. Absolutely not. That'd be like a toothpick trying to hold up an elephant. It's just not gonna happen. So then what are these? These are what's known as timber or props. These are actually a warning system for the miners. So if there was gonna be a squeeze, any kind of shifting or movement in the roof, these would begin to pop, crack, make all kinds of noise, and then visibly warp so the miners would know it was time to get out. They say the timber is talking, miners are walking. So if you guys hear any kind of weird popping, cracking sound. No, I'm just kidding. So if this isn't what's holding up the roof, what is? This this mine is actually held together through a series of pillars and chambers known as ruin pillar mining. And then every single one of these black rectangles are massive, usually 60 by 40 pillars of coal that are left in. So it's actually the coal itself that's holding up the roof. So this mine first opened in 1860, ran until 1965, so a little bit over 100 years whereafter it closed down, reopened as the tour mine that you see today. But what you're going to be experiencing is only about 1% of what this mine originally was. It was part of a much larger mine known as the Continental Mine, would have gone several miles in either direction, absolutely massive. For its time, you could walk completely underground from Scranton straight through Wilkes-Barre, but I am way too tired for that. So if you guys are cool with it, we'll just kind of stick to where the tour is, yeah? Good. First to say, very dangerous practice. Now here, it's not really an issue because as well as this pillar, we have this nearby one and this massive one over here. But unfortunately, in other mines, that could cause a massive collapse or subsidence. That's why from here, from like Scranton all the way through Nanticoke, they are required to have subsidence insurance because it is still a very real risk. Like even my friend was getting a little sinkhole in her front yard and they had to call surveyors in to make sure it wasn't a mine collapse further down. So it is still a very real risk because we're basically sitting on top of Swiss cheese.
Some hard-working miners.
The statues, right?
What's up?
I don't know, if they come at you, we'll find out for sure. won't
Yeah,
we?
no, you can't do that.
So miners would be assigned.
What's up?
Miners would be assigned to specific areas to work.
Yes, your foreman's going to tell you at the beginning of the day where you're going to be working. So you don't necessarily get to pick where you're going to be working. So you kind of wanted to schmooze a little so you can get the better places or the safer places. So another thing people often think of when they come into a mine is a mule pulling a cart. Now this is what would have eventually replaced the mule. This is what's known as the electric mule, the electric locomotive, or the Loki for short. So the way it works is this large branch reaches up and clips onto that 277 volt bare copper wire that it's going to run off of. Yeah, you see exactly where I'm going with this. So yes, a lot of this did have to change in order to make it usable as a tour mine for the public, as in none of these lights would actually be here. All you'd be working with, kind of like what we talked about, just a small flame lamp on your helmet, depending on what kind you had. You could have anywhere from, say, 1 to 10 birthday candles worth of vision. So it would have been extremely dark. Also, those boards were put in for you guys to walk on something more level. There would have been a lot of loose, jagged rock underneath your feet. You could be standing even up to your ankles in runoff water in certain areas, even with those pumps running. So what happens when you introduce a massive amount of open electricity into a dark, wet, slippery area? People tend to trip, and what's your first natural reaction when you trip? You wanna grab onto something. Was not uncommon at all for a miner to grab onto that 277 volt bare copper wire. And if they did, they're going to take down themselves and anyone standing in that water with them. But because this was faster, more efficient, able to pull more carts, basically make more money for the mine without needing the same care that a mule would, well, they're going to take that into consideration a lot more than the actual safety of their workers.
Does anybody want to guess what the name of the guy, what they called the guy who drove this thing?
Mule driver?
Had a name. I know she knows. Easy. He was called the Motor Man.
Yep.
Western Electric.
And, I mean, when they were transitioning over, though, whoever said mule driver, as they were transitioning from mules to that, sometimes they were called mule drivers as well. There's two main kinds of coal we still work with in the U.S. today. There's this anthracite. Everything in this mine is anthracite. That is the hardest type of coal. Also the cleanest burning, burns extremely hot, bright blue flame, lasts a very long time, but unfortunately because it's so hard, it's very difficult, dangerous, and expensive to mine. So we don't use it nearly as much as bituminous. That's a much softer coal. Because it's softer, it doesn't burn nearly as clean, but it's a lot cheaper, easier, and safer to mine. So that's mostly still used to power like large power plants, large ships, that sort of thing. But back in the day, anthracite powered everything and heated every single home in America. So if you never had a chance to touch anthracite, now is your chance. Your hands will absolutely get dirty, and be very careful because it can have small, sharp areas.
Is that why you wear black?
Exactly why I wear black. That and because I like Jurassic Park, but that's a different story. The person that needed a piece of coal.
That's me.
That is you. Okay. So he said no, but I haggled with him. So,
No.
yeah, I was like, what if we take one for the jalopy? Will you mind? Come on, he really wants it. So, would this one work for you? Is that big enough?
Oh, it's certainly big enough, but I need like a little more square.
A little more square. I don't know if we're gonna be able to find this. But yeah, we can't get a perfect size here. We're not actually minding it,
I'm gonna
so.
go through the wagon they had out there. They said,
You could, but you sure this one wouldn't work?
What about the one on the end, is that square?
It's pretty big.
That's real big.
Yeah.
That's a big boy. This one doesn't work?
I suppose you can chisel this.
That's a real pretty piece.
Okay.
That's a pretty piece. Did I convince you?
It's like the only one available.
I mean, there's other ones, but like that's the one that's like that I was thinking about when I said it because I know it doesn't have any sharp. Oh, that's potentially, but it's
No.
really wet
No,
and
it's
dirty.
okay. This is better than that. Indeed, my perfect size would be like a 4x4 cube, 4 inches by 4 inch cube. I will.
That is, yeah, that's not gonna happen. Sorry. I mean, if I could, I'd be like, okay, I got you. Hold
Yeah.
on, but yeah, what about this one? That's. Some might think a pickaxe, and you could use a pickaxe. That's only gonna get you enough to maybe heat a home or two. The majority of your mining is gonna be done with dynamite blasting. Now at this point in time, you didn't typically buy your sticks of dynamite. You're going to be buying the ingredients to make your own dynamite. Meaning you're purchasing wax papers, blasting powders, and then you're going to bring it home. And a loving wife is going to help roll you some explosives because that's how you know you love. The wife makes you some bombs. If she doesn't love you, the wick's going to be real short. So you might be wondering, well, why would anybody take a job where you're constantly paying back into the very company you're trying to make money from? The majority of people who came here were immigrants first coming to this country with absolutely nothing. Now, if they're working here, you immediately had a roof over your head from the company housing. You had access to food, water, clothing, all of the essentials you needed. Even if you had to go into debt to get it, you had it. And most importantly, you had a way to get a start and a way to raise a family, which is so important in a time that not everybody even has that. So, after we no longer work with those hand drills, because you saw how efficient they were, they eventually moved on to these air pump pneumatic drills. They just use a massive amount of pressurized air within those pipes to turn that drill bit, and that's still how it's handled today. That's going to be your modern anthracite coal drill. Yeah, they were popularized in the 70s, and then they never looked back. So, now that we have our holes made, we're going to fill them full of dynamite as much as we can. Then we're going to pack or tamp it in nice and tight. Put a bag of either sawdust or coal dust in front of it to keep that blast in. Otherwise, that dynamite could just shoot right back out and you won't get a thing. So you need a way to keep that blast in the wall. Then we're gonna fuse it up with our copper or electric wire. Get about 100 to 200 feet away, usually around 2 corners, because this stuff can jettison out of the wall at up to 60 miles per hour, easily ricochet around 1 corner and hit you, but you're usually safe around 2. Then we're gonna hook it up to our blasting box. Our plunger detonator, you guys know these, right? Old Wile E. Coyote cartoons? Yeah. Thank goodness this one's not Acme. Do you want to try it? You seem like you know how this works. Okay. See, I don't know how it works. It's scary. So this is going to make an explosion, just to warn you. But wait, see, this is why you're not certified. We have to warn everybody we're blasting so they know to get out of the way. So we're going to yell in every direction, fire! 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 Don't worry about them. They never leave. All right, push it down nice and hard. Use those muscles.
Good job.
Good job. But how many blasts was that?
5. 6.
7.
None of you were counting? You're all fired. We're going back up. No, I'm just kidding. No, it's 10. Yeah. They went off very quickly and in a sequence. So as each one's going off, it's loosening the piece of wall next to it to get out the maximum amount of coal. Now, you have to count every single one, because if you put 10 in that wall and you don't hear 10 go off, ooh, you could be wandering back into something extremely dangerous. What do you do if that's the case? Well, you gotta go back to work eventually, right? So you're gonna wait 30 to 45 minutes, come back, locate the hole that didn't go off, call your ex over to check it out. No, I'm just kidding. The real answer isn't much better, though. You're going to grab a metal hook, give it a good shake, make sure it's not going to go off right in front of your face. And then you're going to use that hook to dig that dynamite back out. Because remember, if everything's coming out of your own pocket, if you can reuse that, you absolutely want to. Smart group! Canaries! Canaries were excellent at detecting gases because they could breathe up to 200 times faster than we can. And whereas our lungs are only about 5% of our body, theirs are 15. So anything that's in the air is going to affect them way faster than it would affect us. Now I know on TV they like to say you wait for your bird to die. Absolutely not. Now you have a dead bird. How's that going to help you? What? So what you actually want to do, just keep an eye on him while you're working. If he's jumping from perch to perch and suddenly starts missing, falling off his perch, acting a little drunk, a little wobbly, maybe he's just singing a real sad song, I don't know. You know you need to get you and your bird out of there immediately. Questions, comments, concerns? All right, if you guys hear him singing while my guitar gently weeps, let me know because we're out. All right.
Yeah, pretty good walk here.
So, we're going through a rock tunnel with very low rock top. If you're taller than me, which is not a big feat, you may need to duck. Mule driver. He's going to be anywhere between 11 to 17 years old. Now, at that age, it's going to be his responsibility to take care of the mule. Now, this is not a mule, this is a donkey. They absolutely use donkeys, just not nearly as much as mules, which would have been a cross between a horse and a donkey. So it's twice as big, extremely muscular. Now, unfortunately, very beautiful area, very high risk of collapse. If you're caught in a collapse, you have to do what this guy was taught to do. Wiggle your hands up through the debris until you feel air. Once you do, you're going to keep moving those fingers. Because if they see your hand, but they don't see those fingers moving, they're going to assume the worst and won't pull you out until the end of the day. So it's very important to keep those fingers moving.
Oh, wow. Oh, my God.
All right, so over here we have what's known as a pegboard shanty, another straightforward name because of the pegboard on the shanty. Now, all of the names here are original miners that have actually worked here. So you would come down at the beginning of the day, find your name, take your peg, put it in the in post, then at the end of the day, you'd put it in the out, so they knew that you safely got out on the porch covered in a blanket. But that's because they don't want to have to deal with sad kids crying wives. They just want that entire family out of their company housing immediately. Unless, of course, there's another young boy that can work down here. And that's how so many of the children ended up working in these mines. Not necessarily because they wanted to, but because it might have been the only way to keep a roof over your family's head. And it was a little bit more understood back then that if your father was too injured to work or happened to pass, well, you're the man of the house now, no matter how young you are. It's your responsibility to make sure your family's taken care of. And unfortunately, before labor laws, that's how it was viewed. It's known as a belly vein or a monkey vein. Belly vein means you're mostly working on your back and your stomach, and monkey vein means you can at least work crouched down on your knuckles, kind of like a chimp. Now, I would say this is more so a belly vein because I don't think full-grown men of that size really have enough space to fully crouch down. It's just not big enough. So a lot of people look at this scenario and think, oh, what do they do to get the boss mad? They get stuck working over here. But that's not actually true. A lot of miners might prefer to work in these conditions because this is one of the safest places you could be working. So the main way you could get injured is going to be falling debris. And they didn't have nice helmets on like we do right now. Think like old school football helmets, thin leather, thin canvas, that sort of thing. So if something fell even from this height over here, you could get pretty injured. But if something fell from over here, probably going to be fine. Also remember, we're not getting paid to put up these timber or props. So the dead work is a lot easier as well when you're just working with these very small logs. What they're also working with is what's known as a shaker chute. These were excellent for these very long but squat veins because you could make this as long as you need it to be by adding panels, such as this one right here. Once it's the length you need it to be, you shovel all your coal on top and this massive spring on the side is going to vibrate those panels and literally bounce the coal to the cart waiting below. So you're always trying to work with gravity, start in the gateway of your lower elevation, drill and blast uphill so you're constantly bringing that coal downward. Because this goes up about 400 feet. You don't want to be physically carrying coal up a length where even if I shine my light up here, you can't even see the end.
Wow.
You see that? This is our massive van that pulls up 22,000 cubic feet of air per minute, more than enough to keep this all clean, breathable, and circulated. This also functions as our secondary escape hatch. By the 70s, all mines were required to have one, and this one is ours. So, if the cart were to break down, which did happen last year, We went down the hill past the gift shop, stay to the right. You'll see something labeled as secondary hoist house or fan house. That's where this lets out. Above is a pill-shaped capsule big enough to fit just a couple people. So they lowered that capsule down 250 feet. That's how deep we are. We communicate via these bells. This is the same kind of buzzers and bells you guys heard at the very beginning of the tour. This is how we communicate with the surface. So, 1's for stop, 2 for up, 3 for down. Prepare yourself. I said prepare yourself, you were warned. Then I got in, they pulled me up that 250 and I threw down some big axes and said good luck. No, I'm just kidding. No. We went up just a couple at a time. I was the last one up, make sure everybody got up safely because I'm a good tour guide. So, somebody got to congratulate me.
Looking for a square piece.
These are a little bit large.
You can try, but yeah, these are all really big. So over here, now this is the kind of cart you'd be working with as a miner, and in the corner is a little brass tag that either has letters, numbers, just some way to identify that this indeed is your cart, so when it reaches the surface, they know who did this work. Now, this would not be considered a full cart by any stretch of the imagination. You have to do what's known as top it off, which means go much higher than the edge of your cart. How high? Boss is gonna come to the center, put his elbow here, make a fist. If this coal doesn't reach higher than his fist, it's not considered a full cart. You were considered a lazy worker, and you could get docked pay for wasting their time and resources. That was one of many ways that they took advantage of the miners. Another way is they might look in there and say, hey buddy, we found stone. We're not paying you to pull stone out of here. There might not even be stone in there. But what are you gonna do? Before unionization, you complain a little too much? They'll just fire you, hire someone who's not gonna complain, and then they'll call every other mine in the area to make an example out of you and say, hey, this guy, he's gonna come snooping for a job. Don't hire him. He'll give you all sorts of issues. Then you might never be able to get a job in your field again. Maybe that's the only job you know how to do. And that's how this time became so violent, like I said, so quickly. Because without a legal way to fight for your general basic rights working an already very dangerous job, sometimes it was a little bit easier to get rid of the boss that's taking advantage of you. So usually, by the end of the day, you are expected to have out 4 of these carts fully topped off, which will equal about 16 tons. So if you know that old song, 16 tons, what do you get? Another day older and deeper in debt. St. Peter, don't you call me, cause I can't go. I owe my soul to the company store. You didn't think there was gonna be a karaoke session down here, did you? Let's go. Yeah, Tennessee Ernie Ford, right?
Yeah.
Oh, amazing singer. If any of you guys don't know it, absolutely look it up. It was like the coal mining theme song of the time. And man, he has a smooth baritone voice. Beautiful. So this is the last place that was mined out before this closed down in 1965. So at this point, I want to ask if you guys want, we can shut off the lights and let you see how dark it can become in a mine. You guys want that?
Yeah.
All right, pile in, pile in. Hold on to your loved ones. If you are planning on getting rid of someone, now's the time. Who said that? I'm watching you guys. Troublemakers, a lot of ya. Ready? Oh, I'm trying to get everybody within like eye shot. I'm trying. I'm trying. All right, so yeah, that's pretty good. All right, on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. You didn't
Wow.
That's dark.
Oh my
Yeah, now as you can see, or rather not see, you can't even see your hand in front of your face.
That's cute. I can't.
I can
Follow.
follow. And that's how the miners would find their way back. No, I'm just kidding. Can you imagine? So if I could grab your attention over here, this is about how much light you'd be working with when this mine was first operational.
Oh, wow.
So not a lot. So how do you figure out what's coal and what's not? You're gonna shine your light on the wall, and it's called black diamond for a reason. It's gonna have a sparkle to it. Now this isn't as authentic just because it's been laying in the runoff water for so long, the coal's been kind of dulled down and the stone shined up. But when you first blast it out, it would be extremely apparent what's coal and what's not. You can still tell the difference. Look at how much more matte the stone is, even though it's the same color. So you have stone, coal, stone, coal. Coal. Not to be confused with Cold Stone, that's ice cream. All right, now if you guys can do me one more favor, you're gonna put your foot on the rail and we're gonna try to follow. No, don't do that. Don't do that. But that is what you would do if your light went out and you had no way to reignite it. You're putting your foot on that rail, try to follow it out. But you could follow it for miles in the wrong direction, even into a blasting zone, some gases. It was a very dangerous thing to do. So we're gonna take the safe way out, with the nice lights on and the nice flat boards. Any questions before we head back? All right, time to get our steps in for the day.
Well, going up the hill.
And these rollers keep the friction off of them so they last long.
Well, we made it back to daylight.
Yep. Much better than last time. I lost like 3 weeks.
There must be one strong motor in there.
Yeah, right?
The hoist.
All
The
right.
hoist house.
I'm going home. Bye, guys.
The Lackawanna Hotel.
Have you ever heard
In the lobby.
Judy and Burke? Judy and Burke. Yes. Years ago, his sister had brought me in.
My name is Lenny. I am a volunteer at the Lackawanna Historical Society, so I'm going to be your Scranton guide for today. And when we stop at the other places, you'll have guides to those places. So this is the Radisson at Lackawanna Station. This building was built in 1908. It was built as the Lackawanna Railroad Station for DL&W, Delaware, Lackawanna, and Western Railroad. And it was designed by Kenneth Murchison, and he got American Institute of Architects award for this building. The last train that came through here, excuse me, it's in my eye, 1972, and then the railroad went bankrupt in 76. These murals on the walls depict scenes from Hoboken, New Jersey to Buffalo, New York, and ceiling, the stained glass up there was again in disrepair. That was restored. The flooring, everything had to be restored, but they really did a beautiful job. This is all marble on the walls. I mean, you could never, it cost $500,000 to do it in 1908, and today it would be over $5 million. And it is on the National Register of Historic Places. Yeah. Okay, we're going to go get on the bus so we can go to the iron furnace.
Yes, I'm a volunteer. The iron furnaces are owned by the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, and they're operated by the state's official history agency, the Pennsylvania Historical and Museum Commission. Actually put the first pick and shovel in the ground on September 11th, 1840. So, in his book, Urban Capitalist, Burton Folsom Jr. says that America's Industrial Revolution in coal and iron began here in Scranton on September 11th, 1840. And we need to get into iron T-rails for the railroad. And that's where they began to put their efforts. Now, what really saved them was the New York and Erie Railroad, because that railroad had a contract and they needed somebody to make iron rails because they were getting their rails from Great Britain. And they only had 2 more years to go, so the contract from 1846 to 1848, the Scranton iron furnaces produced 12,000 tons of T-rail for that railroad. So that financial boost really set into motion the city of Scranton. So those furnaces that you see there, they were actually built between 1848 and 1857. And Scranton then became incorporated as a city in 1866. So during the 1860s, the Scranton iron furnaces were the second largest producer of iron in the United States of America. So this site closed down in 1902, and it was pretty much vacant until the 1960s. In the 1960s, Scranton realized it was going to celebrate its centennial in 1966. They decided, well, let's focus on this site. But it wasn't ready in 1966. It was ready by 1969.
This is the courthouse here. And Lackawanna County is the 67th and last county formed in Pennsylvania. The courthouse was completed in 1880.
Okay, let's clear the street.
I counted 31.
I was ready. I was like with my hands.
Cultural Center at the Masonic Temple, Scranton, Pennsylvania.
So this building has 7 floors, 3 of them underground. I'm not quite sure why the design was built from the top to the bottom, but if you take a look at the ceiling, there's a detail that exists on every single floor, starting with the 4th floor. But if we were to start on the 4th floor, you would see a little nub in the center of each of those circles. That's actually the seed of a thistle. Because I didn't mention, this building is the Scottish Rite Mason building. So while they look like baby pineapples, they're the start of thistle. So on the 4th floor, it's the seed of a thistle, and when you get to the lobby, you'll see the full-grown thistle suspended from the ceiling. Looks like a whole lot of pineapples, but they're thistles. And the idea of a thistle is that it's a welcoming and accepting flower growth. I don't really know, plant, whatever vegetation a thistle comes from. So that's part of the history.
I'm Deb Peterson. I'm the director of the Scranton Cultural Center. But let's talk a little bit about this building. Did they mention that it was built, started to be built in 1927 and it was finally finished in 1930 by Raymond Hood? Okay, well, so over there you're going to see on your right, on my right, the pick and shovel were the original pick and shovels to actually dig the dirt when they were starting the construction of this building. The beautiful.
They look too clean for that.
I don't know if they're original. I always wonder too. You don't see any scrapes or anything on it. But, you know, no, they never come out, so they stay in there.
Okay? All right.
There's 12 of us, Mark.
12? Okay.
Yeah, not including you.
Okay. I chalked in for 14, so if 2 come in, we're all good.
You're not going out.
Well, I know they mentioned all the safety things. The rails were manufactured right here in Scranton, Pennsylvania, 1880s. Lackawanna Iron and Coal Company, about a half a mile safe. The deepest will be in this drift mine will be about 40 feet underground, so we're not going to be as deep as the Lackawanna County mine tour over there.
So as we walk through all this mud again that covered a sedimentary or sandstone, this mud that came in and compressed all this stuff down, this organic material right here, and I'm sure they spoke about methane and explosions and things like that. This is what compressed it down, this mud. So in this mud we're going to see a lot of fossilizations that would have taken place back then 300 million years ago. So right here on the roof you're going to see different species of trees as we make our way back. This is basically all coal that was here that was removed as they made their way back.
Well, the first thing we had to do was re-timber the whole mine to make it safe for everybody. And then we had to drive a second opening outside. And while we were working on the second opening project, we were also putting the track in here so we could haul the coal out of here. So all this track we got was straight when we got it. It was actually manufactured by Lackawanna Coal and Iron in Scranton in 1889. There's actually a date mark on one of these pieces of rail, but it was used at the Switchback Gravity Railroad outside of Jim Thorpe, from Jim Thorpe to Summit Hill. And it was all scrapped in World War II for the war effort, and 2,000 feet of it got saved by a gentleman who went through his property. It stayed in his family until the 90s when it was donated to the No. 9 Mine Tour in Lansford. And then we had a mine car that we restored that they wanted for, because their tour was getting a little busier, so they wanted to take more people in and out of the mine, so we traded them a mine car for about, I don't know, 800 feet of track. So this is some of it. So this was, it looks new, but it's not. It was all straight when we got it, so we had to bend it to put it in here. So if you guys could just move to the side just a little bit, I'm gonna throw this rail bender down here. I don't want to throw it on your feet. So this nice lightweight piece of iron, it's called a rail bender. Now, let me turn on the other side because that's how it would go. So this is a rail bender, and it would hook on the head of the rail, and you tighten this screw, and then put a bar in it and start bending it, and it would kink it just a little bit. And then we're going to loosen it, slide it down a little farther, bend it and kink it a little bit. Obviously it's not spiked or anything at this point, it's just laying on the ties or the sills. And we're going to get one piece of rail set, and then we're going to use what's called a gauge rod, and we're going to set this between the gauge, and then we're going to bend the other rail to match this rail, and that's how we get our 031 through 072 curves. Boom! How'd I do?
Very good.
So that is our rail bender. Everything is nice lightweight stuff that we use in the mines. Greg, speed them up. They only got 8 minutes left.
All right, you guys want to come with the team up and around? Chris will pick it up. Or pick it back up, I should say.
So one of the reasons this place closed in 1975 is they started enforcing the law that every mine has to have a second way out. This one didn't. It was one way in, one way out. So when we came in here, we had to timber the place, make it safe, and then drive a second opening outside. So we went in the upper vein here, chased it outside. It's about 45 feet to the surface. We used 65 sticks of dynamite over 4 days, mined 35 tons of coal out of here. We like to tell people we were the first people in 75 years to dynamite coal under Scranton. Sounds kind of cool. It's a little more quality, isn't that great? A little more pure. That's still nice.
Hi ho. Hi ho. It's off to work we go. That was nice. And that's of Columbus, huh?
Columbus, and it was dedicated in 1892. Well, it was 4 days, or like 10 days late being dedicated because the base wasn't here. But Scranton used to be known as a red light city, and when men would get off the trains, they wanted to know where the red light district was, and they would tell them, go to the courthouse square and follow the direction that Columbus is pointing. And it's true, that's where they were.